Most meetings are a waste of time. They start late, there's no clear structure, the conversation drifts massively, loud voices dominate the conversation. Perhaps someone takes a few scattered notes, but no one reads the notes afterwards. And everyone leaves feeling like something happened, but actually nothing changed. A week later, you're back in another meeting, talking about the same things again. Meetings have become a place where people feel productive without actually producing anything. And in gymnastics, where time, energy, and attention are already really stretched, that's a problem because you don't have time for conversations that go nowhere. I'm not against meetings, far from it. I think facilitating a great meeting is a very powerful tool in leadership. I love a great meeting. They create alignment, they solve problems, they drive standards and definitely build accountability, but only if they're done properly. And the reality is, most aren't. The first issue, I think, is a lack of clarity. If you can't clearly answer the question, what is the outcome of this meeting, then you shouldn't be having it. Not what are we discussing in terms of the agenda, but what is the outcome? And if there's no outcome, it's just conversation. It hasn't moved you forwards in any way. The second issue is structure. Most meetings bounce from topic to topic because it's convenient to discuss a number of things when you've got a group of people together in the same room. But if you've ever finished a meeting and said, well, we didn't get through as much as we'd hoped, or we probably need to meet again in a few days to finish off, then you'll know exactly what I mean. Great meetings have structure and boundaries. What are we covering? In what order? How long are we spending on each part? What's non-negotiable? And importantly, what are we not covering? Because without boundaries, meetings expand and they fill the time that you give them and then demand more. It's not that you don't discuss things which are important. It's that you enter lots of surface level conversations which fill time with things that probably could have been resolved on email or Slack. A third issue is accountability, because even when meetings feel productive, if people leave without crystal clear clarity on the actions that are required by each and every individual and by when and to what quality, you just end up with a vague to-do list when you leave. So another meeting becomes necessary because the first one wasn't delivered right. And I think at that point, meetings aren't helping your organization. They're actually slowing it down because they're draining everyone's time. So what does a good meeting look like? I think it's pretty simple, but not easy because it requires leadership and boundaries which are actually enforced. And that's not always comfortable. You start with a clear outcome, and that's got to be communicated ahead of the meeting. One person should facilitate the meeting, which is clearly communicated to others again, so there's clarity. You build a structure that supports the outcome of the meeting, and perhaps it's a recurring structure that's followed every time you meet, if you're using the same kind of meeting. The facilitator controls the time. They don't allow the conversation to bleed into other topics, and they assign ownership to everyone that's there in the meeting so that the actions are very, very clear when everyone leaves. And then they follow up after the meeting, confirming what was agreed, including the deadlines. A good meeting shouldn't be judged about what is discussed or planned in the meeting. It should be judged from what gets done after it. That's how you know if it's been successful or not. Because if a meeting doesn't move something forward, it probably shouldn't exist. If you found this small insight useful, I share more of this in my weekly newsletter. The link's in the description, and I'll see you next time.